Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. I'm back at the ranch with the murder van and a brand new gadget or gizmo. Today, we have the BougeRV electric cooler. The question I would like to have answered, that I will answer for myself, and ergo you guys watching, is does this thing replace a cooler in its effectiveness? And then on top of that, is it in any way more convenient? Because I think that it might be. You don't have to go get ice. You do need power, and I usually have power somewhere nearby, but I don't always have ice. I don't even have an ice maker. In fact, my refrigerator is a 1953 Hot Point. No ice maker. They reached out and asked if I would be interested in checking one of these things out. My mind immediately went to the power tour, the adventure van, the fact that I have no refrigeration out here at the ranch and it's still plenty hot. Also, the dog and I went on a long hike last weekend and it would have been nice to come back to a cool beverage. You can give this thing juice in 3 ways. They send you with a car adapter that gives you straight 12 volts out of a cigarette lighter style outlet. And then they also send you a plug in the wall power cord. The doohickey what changes the AC power coming from the wall to the DC power that this thing needs. In addition, if you're the super outdoor type, they do sell a solar panel kit with this. Now this company also does make a full line of batteries. Speaking of, you can buy an accessory battery that fits right in here. You run the power thing out, jams right into this thing. Now I don't have one of those batteries, and I will say, unfortunately, it does cost nearly as much as the cooler itself. But for a road trip, which we take quite often, I'm just gonna jam this thing right into the car. I'm gonna plug this thing in, let it start to cool off, and then we're gonna talk about a couple of the features. My goal is to really put it to the test tomorrow. So right off the top, it's telling me the temperature inside the unit, which is 77 degrees, because it's still plenty warm here in Atlanta. But that does bring me to an interesting point about this versus a cooler. The range on this thing is 7 degrees Fahrenheit to, I think, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So yes, you heard me correctly. You can turn this thing into a freezer, which is something that you cannot do with a cooler, because you're not gonna get the inside of a cooler below the temperature of ice. I mean, maybe if you had dry ice, what's the temperature of that stuff? I don't really know. So this is the 30 quart model. It's pretty big. There are a billion models. They have all sizes. They have some that are specifically made to be consoles in trucks. There's like, it's worth looking if you're interested in these. And these things range in price. I think it's like $150 to almost all the way up to $350 before you buy the battery. So you are in the same price range as like a high-end cooler like a Yeti or something like that. This thing's surprisingly quiet. That was, I wouldn't say a concern, but I figured it might hum pretty loudly if it was sitting in the car with you, but it's quiet. We'll see how long it takes to cool down. It's gotta be, according to the thermometer, it's 82 in here right now. We're at 6 o'clock. Cooling an empty space is kind of dumb, so we're gonna put some of these drinks in here, and I'm gonna leave some room for my experiment tomorrow. So that sad little cooler is the one that I bought when I was selling illegal hot dogs out of the back of my truck, and I took it on power tour. You can see it's already kind of just died. Oh, and I left stuff in it. Good gracious. Let's pretend I didn't open that. But that shows you how often I'm inclined to go get ice and fill a cooler. I just came out to check on it and it is already down to 43 degrees. It's been about 40 minutes, but in here it is still 80 degrees. We are off to the mines, off to work, regular day. It's actually nice and cool this morning, but it's supposed to get up into the mid 80s. So that's gonna be a good test for this thing right here to see how it functions as a cooler when it's not powered. All right, gang, it's warming up. We've made a stop at the Home Depot and the grocery store. She's still 43 degrees. That's not too bad. We're gonna load it up. We got some pretty good snacks. I got some juice things, more different juice things. Have one of those. Some salami snacks, some prosciutto snacks, a little doohickey full of fruit, put that on top, and some carrot sticks. Hopefully somewhat healthy snacks to get us through the day. And we're gonna go get to the job site and we'll be there for all day. So we'll see how this does. Still plenty of room in this joint, like whole bunches of rooms. All right, gang, I'm actually headed out. So over about 8 hours of sitting, it raised about 10 degrees. Now I did dive in there a few times during the day and pulled stuff out, which had stayed very cool. When I parked it was 43 degrees. It's now 53 degrees. I think that strategically you could just cool it a little more. Drop it down to 34, 35 before you start your journey, and that would do the trick. Or you just give it like a little helping hand. Maybe an ice pack if you've got like a long day out somewhere. It's still cold. So the good news is everything is still cold, it is still good, and I don't have the food that I bought swimming in ice soup. So about 45 minutes into the drive, it's back at temperature. All right, gang, we are back, but the sun is going down. So I may as well show you one more feature. That's actually pretty helpful. Let's break it down. Didn't understand what it was at first. Those are indeed tie downs, so you can strap it down to your car or truck so the thing doesn't go sliding all over the place, which is actually a really smart feature. So I think the big question is this better than a cooler? And for me, and for every reason I use a cooler, the answer is a resounding yes. I am comparing this to a 30-quart Yeti, and they're in the similar ballpark of price range. Now that is without the accessory battery. With the accessory battery, I'm sure this thing would do wonders, but it adds another $200 to the cost, and well, $500 cooler is, well, it's out of my range, is what I'm saying. It can function as a freezer, which is something that any traditional cooler can't do. So let's break it down from the beginning. Van adventure life build stuff. I love it. It beats a built-in fridge. It keeps my van versatile, and when it's not in the van, I can still use it. It's not trapped in there waiting for me to go do something with the van. This can go in any vehicle, and therefore I can use this thing and get all the value out of it, using it at the ranch as sort of an off-grid cooler. It's obviously going to work. It does not take very long to cool down. It does hold its cold, and I think if I really wanted to, I could, you know, put it overnight on freezer mode with a couple water bottles in there and then change the temperature, and this thing would perform even better when it doesn't have power. For the power tour, absolutely would have been better than a cooler. Not only were we stopping for ice and it was 100 degrees, everybody at the hotels all thought they could use the ice machines to fill their coolers. So by 6 a.m. those ice machines were totally tapped out. So it always meant a stop at the grocery store to dump out your cooler soup, reload it with ice, just so that when you were sitting in traffic overheating, you could jump in the back and grab a couple of cold bottles of water, because it was brutal. So I do think this is a better choice than a cooler for the power tour. I mean, for the extreme funny circumstances, like my illegal hot dog stand, this is obviously the better option, because I would start my day by unloading the chest freezer into the cooler, grab a bag of ice, and then at the end of the day, I would come back and I would have to unload everything back into the refrigerators and freezers. And then in the morning, I would start over by repacking my ice packs and then go get ice. This, I just pulled it out of the car. It is still full of stuff. It's running. I can grab it tomorrow, throw it in the van if I want to. I don't have to unpack and repack and dump ice and get ice. So that's, yep, works. So could I live without this thing before? Absolutely. Can I live without it now? Yeah, sure, of course. But is it super convenient for all the times I needed a cooler? Yeah. And I think it's going to be a lot easier to use than a cooler, because I don't have to supply the cold to it. So therefore, I will indeed use it more. Now, if you are interested in getting one of these things and you are interested in the battery, I will recommend not buying the battery for the fridge. They make a miniature power station with the same watt hours as the battery that goes into the fridge, but the little power station has USB in and out, and I think a cigarette lighter thing, and an AC adapter. It's its own inverter. So if you're not using it for the fridge, it can be a portable power supply for other electronics. So that cooler's been in the back of my van since forever. I redid the interior of the van, put the cooler back in, and since that time, it has never had ice in it. It's never been a priority. I never want to go get it in order to cool something, in order to clean it out later. This was pretty simple. I just plugged it into the cigarette lighter. I filled it with the stuff that I wanted to keep cool. It kept it cool. And then I dragged it in here tonight to plug it in, mostly to film the end of this video, because I really think it would have been fine out there in the car, and I could have cooled everything when I got back in the car in the morning to take myself to work. So anyway, I hope this helped you out if you are in the market for something like this. The utility and the convenience are already standing out to me, and so I do think I'm going to get a lot of use out of this. Good luck on your projects out there, and we'll see you next time on Between the Sharks.